Welcome back to the Landscape Ontario podcast. I'm your host, Karina Sinclair, and today we're tackling a business principle that might feel a little counterintuitive, but that's vital for growth. The idea that less is actually more. Now, I know a lot of landscapers feel like they need to be everything to everyone. The generalist who can handle any job that comes in. Focusing on a really specific niche is the key to standing out, maximizing your profits, and truly weathering economic change. Today, we'll be talking about how specialists are navigating this fragmented industry where so many companies are struggling to see growth, and how clarity and specialization are helping them protect their quality and succeed. Our guest today is Frank Bourque, a sought-after coach, speaker, and successful former landscape business owner. He's going to break down the three main ways you can niche your business and walk us through the practical steps of finding that sweet spot that your team loves, your clients desire, and your bank account smiles about. Get ready to rethink about how you approach your business. This episode is all about leaning in to your niche. Thanks for joining us on the show here today, Frank. I'm so glad that you're here because I know that you're well sought out as a speaker and a coach. You've been in the landscape business yourself, so you know firsthand what it's like to be a business owner. And today we're going to talk about the idea that sometimes less is more. For a landscaper, that means focusing on a specific niche instead of trying to be everything to everyone. In your experience, what is a niche in the landscaping world, and why is identifying and sticking to that specific thing so vital for business owners who want to scale and succeed?
Well, first, thank you for having me, Karina. I really appreciate the invite. And yeah, it's an interesting topic. I think it's the difference between being a specialist and a generalist. And in our industry now, there's more businesses than ever. And we tend to see some trends, even though revenue has gone up, there's more businesses than ever. We've noticed that over the years, there's about 25% of the landscape companies that saw actually some revenue growth, but that's not a big number, 25%. Just since 2024, there's actually 42% that faces decline in a growing market. So what that tells me is when you have about almost 10% of the market that's owned by just 5 big companies, it means that there's a massive fragmentation in this industry. And the ones who are becoming specialists are the ones who are being recognized. And I think that's really where the opportunity is, because specialists really define their niche, they define their service. People look up to them as being the ones who are the most knowledgeable, the most capable of doing it. And those are the ones who survive when there's changes in an economy. And I think it's a great topic for today with everything that's going on in the world. I think we need to adapt, but if we adapt with a specific part of what we do that we love, that we're good at, that we might be more profitable at doing, these are some of the signs that if we do more of this, we might benefit a lot more than trying to, like you said, pleasing everyone or being everything to everyone, which is not always easy, creates more chaos and usually just more difficult overall.
Well, so often we hear that advice that, choose to do something you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And that's a nice platitude. And some people will wonder, well, how do I actually do that? So how could somebody figure out and lock in that specific niche that will make a business profitable and remain profitable in ever-changing economic situation?
Yeah, I see leaning into a niche in 3 ways. There's really what you do. So the service niche, that could be if you're into landscaping, hardscaping, lighting, irrigation, maybe design build only or snow management. The client niche, where it's who you serve. So that could be HOAs, commercial properties, high-end residential. And then there's geographical niches where it's where do you serve? Maybe you're more in the west end of a city or the east end. Just like for us in Ottawa, there's a lot of companies that focus in just one area just because of traffic. It can become difficult to travel just on the outer side of the city. So they try to really focus in one section. But really, the trick for me is when you're leaning into a niche, it's not necessarily starting something new, but it's looking at the existing data. Maybe where are you the most profitable? What are the crews enjoying the most? What are the types of services that you're being the most referred for? So if you're known for specific services and you are profitable at it, and plus you as maybe the business owner, you love what you do, and you can save time by maybe serving a specific area and a specific type of person or client that you really enjoy as an ideal client. Those are all great first signs of if you lean into that, there's good chances that it's just going to give you more of what you're looking for. And oftentimes there's many reasons why we tend to just try to be a generalist because we want to serve or not have to say no just because we want to make sure that we hit our revenue targets. But the problem with that is if sometimes we look at trying to please everyone at the same time, it's difficult to train our teams. It's difficult to repeat a process that you often have to start all over. So it creates a lot of chaos within the company, especially the smaller the company, the harder it is to do this. I've lived that many times where you try to serve all different types of clients, and that too can become difficult because you have all kinds of clients for all the different niches that you might try to do. So for me, it's really looking at trying to do two of these three levels. So the service niche, the client niche, or the geographic niche, and trying to see how I can lean more into two of those three. And the more you can hit, the better. So if you do outdoor lighting exclusively for high-end residential clients in the West End, for instance, that's a niche. You've really hit the target on that one.
That's a really interesting distinction of those three pillars of creating a niche and then combining them into a super niche, right? So if you are just doing lighting for particular high-end clients in a particular neighborhood, it's drilling down and down and down into something where you would really get to know who your market is and how to reach them and the language you need and the marketing platforms. And I think that would help you really connect with the clients that you're looking for in a much more meaningful way.
Absolutely.
So, does leaning into a niche work equally well for an independent contractor or a small company with a handful of people or those larger companies that might have multiple crews and divisions?
Well, usually, if you look at a large company or a small company, there's always one or two services that represents anywhere from like 60 to 70% of the revenue. Oftentimes, the next question becomes, is that revenue profitable? Whether you're a big company or a small company, it really comes back down to, do you have the talent to take care of those niches if you have more than one within the company? So I'll give you an example. I've worked with some large companies that do not have any specialists on staff. And so when you have a specialist on staff, that person can really take on that whole department or that division and really run it like a business within a business. I've seen companies even give a division a different name, like a lighting department becomes a lighting company with a different name within the same company, just to really define the specialty of it. That's one of the things I've observed. And when usually companies take on that challenge as almost a separate entity within the same company, they tend to do very well because they treat it that way. But whether you're a small company or a large company, I think it's the time that you will and the focus that you will dedicate to it. But I've seen this industry reward clarity more than just trying to please everyone, because the lack of focus takes the quality out of the service usually. So usually we tend to not give as much attention to the clients in the way we would when it's a specialty or something that we really do really, really well. To me, it's not the size of the company, it's the clarity on how you will find the client, retain the client, serve the client, and the quality of the service that you bring. And that's really what I have observed. The larger the company, obviously, the more chances you have to maybe have the talent on board, but definitely not a requirement at all. We see small companies competing very well against large companies, but the small companies that compete very well are the ones who are doing one thing really, really well.
So, if somebody was trying to find their footing in this industry, looking for work, what could be a good strategy for them? Originally, people might have thought, well, I need to know a little bit about everything so that I can find whatever job it becomes available and slide myself in there. But
Mm.
maybe the strategy should be to find something that I really love doing, I'm really good at doing, and then sell that as a customized specialist role within a larger company so that you could take on a division and make that almost like a sub business. So, would that be a good strategy for someone just starting out looking to find their way in the landscape trades?
I always take clients through a process of reflection at first. And we look at, well, first, let's look backwards before we look forward. So what are some of the jobs that makes you the most money, or the type of work that your team loves? What kind of clients brag about what you do or about you and for what? And then maybe there's a niche that is usually already present by just looking at your data and what's already existing within what you already do. And then I'll take them through asking them about what are your favorite types of clients. So let's look through the client list and let's look at who you consider to be the best clients. Is it the jobs that are the most profitable with the least headaches? Maybe the ones that give you the most referrals? What do they have in common? What's that client that really feels rewarding to have? Because that's the one I want to attract more of and serve. And then if you stay on purpose, you can do it in many ways. If you don't need to add more to what you do. And some people tend to think I have to serve everyone, but there's always subcontractors available, good partners that we can partner up with. Maybe they love what a certain type of work that we don't like, and vice versa. Declining work doesn't mean you're not getting work anymore. It just means that you can think about it differently. If you partner up with someone who can give you more of the work that you want and you can give them more of the work that they're looking for, there's different ways to do that. And then rebranding around that niche is a lot easier, right? So from the name of the company to the website to your social media presence, it becomes a lot easier to communicate a specialty with a specific tagline that really attracts. It's speaking to one type of person, client, that's looking for exactly that. Because if you're talking to everyone, you kind of become invisible just with everybody else, especially if it's a full service landscaping company. You're going to be competing against a lot more people than if you are a specialist in a certain type of landscape service. And then some people are scared of raising prices, but if you do marketing very well and you are already known for something that you do very well, and people are already referring you for something you do very well, raising your price makes you stand out. You want to stay within that range where it's a fit for the target market, but at the same time, you can't charge what everybody else is charging if you are the specialist and other people are kind of a jack of all trade or generalists, right? And so raising your price, especially if you do it really, really well, brings that value in a different way, and people will value that service or perceive it differently, especially. So it also helps to filter out the wrong clients and to attract the right ones. Absolutely.
Well, there's so much good stuff in what you just said. That self selecting out of clients that you don't necessarily want to work with because they don't value what you do. Also, the idea of eliminating those tasks that you don't enjoy doing. Maybe somebody doesn't love a certain element of creating a landscape. Well, then don't do it. if you
Yeah,
can do something that you
exactly.
actually love, do that and let somebody else who does enjoy that task take it on. And
Mm.
when you said about the marketing and raising your prices, when somebody chooses a niche, what are the first signs in the financial reports that being a specialist is actually working?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think when you are specializing in one type of service and you're good at it and you're profitable at it, I think it shows because you're able to explain why you are charging a specific price. I see that with people, for instance, that know their numbers. They know that if they run their company, they need so much revenue every day, whether it's one crew, two crews, three crews. They know exactly how much money going out the door in the morning they have to come back and make every day. They also know when the trends are changing, when the clients ask for more details on the pricing, they're able to explain where that comes from. They're also able to articulate what makes them different from everybody else. So if you charge more money, it can't just be because you need more money to run your business. It has to be because that helps you to offer a better service, whether it's how easy it is to do business with you because you employ people that are very high quality and they are specialists and it costs more money to hire specialists. Maybe the turning time on projects is faster. You're able to offer that service that they need in a shorter amount of time. You're just more efficient at it. Maybe the equipment that you use gets the job done faster and better results for the client. So I think it's how it's delivered. But if people are paying for it and they're happy to pay for it, I always go back to the customer experience. Tell me about the customer experience. What do the customers love the most about your process? If it's the beginning, right through till the end, and at the end they leave you a great review, it means what you're providing is bringing them value. And if you're profitable at it, even if you're more expensive than anybody else, you should not feel bad at it. But the opposite is also true. If you look at the customer experience and there's a lot of challenges, I would start by looking at how can we make it easier for our team and the client to enjoy the process. And from there, let's reevaluate how can we bring that value and still be profitable at it. So there's a few questions, but usually if you're good at it and it's profitable and people love to hire you for what you do, those are great signs that you're in the right direction.
That word of mouth is one of the most powerful marketing techniques. And if you can nail that, then you don't necessarily have to spend a lot of money in other marketing techniques because people are coming to you, begging for you to do what you do best. That's a great spot to find yourself in.
Yeah.
Over the last number of years, the landscape industry has had a real problem finding enough people to fill all the jobs available. There's been a
Mm-hmm.
labor shortage. A lot of the colleges are closing some of their programs that train people in landscape trades. For those who are looking just to get people to fill the roles so they can complete the projects that they've signed up for, it's going to be kind of tricky to find specialists. What can companies do when they're looking for these specialists to improve their company culture, to attract people who are specialists in whatever it is that they do and find them in the first place?
That's a great question. And I think one of the advantages of being in a niche is exactly that. When you're able to really put your focus, everything from marketing to the right client, but marketing to the right employee, and being able to demonstrate to the younger generation coming in who are looking for employment or that take interest in something. When you do something, you're really doing it well, you can put all your training efforts into that one thing. So when you onboard them, you're really able to offer them some quality training in one specific field. People feel a lot more competent when they're able to learn one specific thing at a time. When I started out, I had to almost learn everything all at the same time. Whenever it happened, I had to learn it. And it was very difficult. No matter how much effort I put in, it was hard to remember some details. It was hard to follow along with the ones who had more experience. But now what we can see is the younger generation coming in, they love to do something and to take the time to learn it, to be taught the right way with the focus and attention that it needs. And then they like to be rewarded when they do it well. So it's kind of a win-win for everyone. But you have to, as a company now, I think, be able to demonstrate to someone how they're going to win with your company. So when you join us, we're going to take a lot of time to train and onboard and make sure that you're enjoying the process in as much as when it's learning about equipment or installation or something else. And I think people see a lot more value in working for a company who's going to take the time to let's enjoy the work together. Let's enjoy the process of learning. There's something special about being able to have time to learn. We're such in a rush. And I see that in companies that try to do everything, they are always in a rush to teach it. And I think we drop the ball too often when we're trying to teach everything at the same time, or we're just not taking the time. So a lot of the value comes from the onboarding process, the education that we give, the way we market that value to people who are looking for employment. And what I've noticed a lot lately, and I've done this process many times this winter with companies, we go in and we look at all the roles and responsibilities. And what I've realized the most this winter, doing this exercise over and over and over, is that when we finish the process of saying, okay, who's going to own this task? Who's going to own this? Okay, you can delegate it, but you're still responsible for it. And what I've noticed is people take a lot of pride when they know, okay, wow, I'm the owner of this. I have to make sure the trailer is clean every day and organized, and you're going to put a tagging system on it and I can use it. It's going to be easy. People take a lot of pride in that. And I think when they know how to do it, when to do it, how to track it, it's amazing what happens. So I think for me, it's one simple thing that every company can do is make sure everyone knows their roles and responsibilities and start talking about it. When you have happy employees, they'll talk to other people who are looking for employment. They'll be your biggest fan, but they will promote that as a fan of where they work. They'll be proud and they'll want people to know that they enjoy their job. And so there's a lot of reward in just doing something really well and being recognized for it and knowing exactly what you have to do, how you're going to do it. And you have to know when you're winning also. So I think it's kind of a combination of a lot of things, but it comes back to the time, effort, and focus we put into to our people to attract more of those good people.
You made a good point about taking care of the trailer, right? That is not what gets the glossy photo that's submitted to the awards, and that's not what gets the accolades. But without that, you don't get those award-winning results, right? You need some ownership every step of the way in the tasks that might get overlooked, but collectively, it is important. And if somebody can specialize in that, maybe there's two specializations, or maybe you're really great at laying pavers in beautiful patterns, but you also maintain these high standards within a task that's related and important. So it doesn't mean you're really good at the loss of everything else, but that you feel pride in what you're doing and all the elements that go along with that.
Yeah. A good mentor of mine would say, how you do anything is how you do everything. And I think clients notice that when you're organized, from the way you park the vehicles to how you keep the site clean or your trailer organized, you find your tool faster, your equipment is well maintained, and then people want to take care of it. People are proud of using clean trucks and having nice clothes. And I think people notice that stuff, not only the employees, but clients do notice those things also. And employees take pride in knowing that we kind of all do the same thing here. We do it well and we're proud of it because we stand out for the right reasons, right? So,
So what are some of the challenges of leaning into a niche? Like, what might some business owners or specialists struggle with once they finally commit to a niche and start having to turn down jobs that are profitable but outside of their specialty?
there's many different steps to stepping into a niche. And like you said, sometimes you get to a point where it starts to be successful and you have to turn down work. It's if you have a plan for that work that you have to turn down, I think that's your best case scenario. You can be helpful without actually serving the person, but maybe having the right partners and referring them. You can totally just turn it down, But to me, that's a lost opportunity. To me, it's if you can leverage the power of a referral. I feel that if you're referring to the right people, the right partners, it tends to come back in different ways, especially if people know what kind of work you're looking for. And then when you're specializing and you're doing more of that work and you're really clear about what you do, you become more visible by the right people. And so you stop having to chase clients. And I think that's a big advantage because then it means you're building a brand. And when you're building a brand, it's going to cost less usually in marketing. And like you had said previously, the best referral is just word of mouth when you have the right people talking to other right people and saying, this is your person. This is who you want to hire because they're the best of the best. They're not necessarily less expensive, but they are a specialist and they are efficient and easy to deal with and a lot of fun. So I think the goal is not just to have a niche, but the goal should be let's try to do one or two things really, really well, better than anybody else in our area. And let's see how we can do it so that it's not easy to replicate. Usually, if you take a generalist trying to do what a specialist does, it takes them a lot of, well, first market research, then effort and training and tweaking to be able to replicate what a specialist does. Because usually there's so much focus that goes into what the specialist does that the generalist is missing a lot of details to be as good as that. So to me, it's the whole customer experience from start to finish. The more focus you have, I think it's easy to keep growing and growing. Like you said, if you get good at it, you're going to get more business, more referrals. It's to not lose touch of why people are calling. People are calling because it was fun to deal with you. And so it's to really keep up with the demand or find other great partners that can help you to keep up with demand. Definitely with the technology that we have now, I think demand can be handled in many ways and customer experience as well. But that's probably for another topic. But there's a lot of ways to grow in the right way. But I think having the right partners and the right systems is really important in any niche or service.
I love what you said about having to turn down work being an opportunity to partner with somebody who is a specialist in that space. So that whole concept of a rising tide lifts all boats, that as an industry, we're collaborative and it's less about beating out the competitors, but looking at who are the other top performers, craftspeople who know what they're doing, who elevate landscapes, and letting them have their space to do what they do, you do what you do, and then together everyone looks good. I
Yeah.
love that concept and how that could play out for the industry as a whole.
Yeah. I met a company once who they were a hardscape expert, but they had a gardener who they would always refer and also like a plumber and all the trades that you could imagine just for a homeowner. And they would always leave this card at the end. They all did. So they would always leave this card and say, hey, we recommend the best that we know. And here's a few people that might be helpful to you if ever you need someone around the house. So they had all partnered up. They were about 9 and they had this beautiful little postcard. They would just leave that with the homeowner. So homeowner instantly had a credible crew of different trades of specialists so that around their home, if they needed an electrician or a plumber or a gardener, a hardscaper or a pool specialist, they had that on hand from people who trusted each other, but that could recommend each other for all the right reasons. So I think it's definitely an advantage when you're able to demonstrate that.
Well, I think that's an amazing idea. Instead of gatekeeping and hiding all these other tradespeople that you've maybe subcontracted to, but making that accessible to the client so that, they get that sense of this is a team of people who know what they're doing. And when I need that one particular niche, I just bring them in. I really love that open concept.
Mhm.
Let's play devil's advocate for a moment. For an ambitious landscaper who loves variety, and I've heard from many that they love that every day is a little bit different,
Mhm.
and they maybe love pushing their comfort zone. How do you respond to the worry that going niche could become too boring or limiting or stop them from making money later on.
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes I've been that person who said to myself some days, I'm glad I do this because I love to be in a machine. Everyone has a different reason why they're in business. If it's all for the right reasons, great. If it's because we're doing it out of fear, there might be some information missing. And to me, that's why I go back to the data first. So I say, all right, let's look at the services that you offer. Are they all as profitable? And I've seen how many people have said this to me. They were running a maintenance division with almost no profit, and another division would support that department, but they would say, well, that's how we get business. We operate this, and usually we have so many clients, they get us more work. And what I would notice is, a good portion of their time and effort went into something that wasn't profitable. So that's where my next question comes in. Well, we can fix it. And if all the departments, everything you do is as profitable, as much fun, and as easy to market, then you know what? That's probably the right move. And you'll find that your stress level will probably be well maintained because you have a good way to handle all these things. But for most people, most business owners, I would say there's always two, maybe three service that brings most of the revenue. And that's where we can start looking at the data. Some days it's great to be doing something different, but is it worth the time and effort in having to train people for it? For instance, if you do 5% of your revenue is on lighting, if that's difficult to teach new people to do that when you lose employees and you gain more employees, then I would say, well, look at all the time you're taking for 5% of the revenue that might or might not be profitable when most of your revenue comes from something else where you wish you would have some specialists doing that. But now you have people that know a little bit about everything working 80% of their time here, 5% of their time there. And so that's where it becomes difficult, especially if you're a smaller company. But I agree with you. I tend to want to have some variety in my days, but I think some variety that has a direct payoff, whether it's enjoying it, profitable, easy to gain more clients that we love. If it's for the right reasons, there's no wrong in it, but it's hard to do. It's hard to replicate.
There's always that opportunity to take your specialty to the next level. There's no just sitting and resting on your laurels just because you've maintained or achieved a certain level of excellence, but what's next? What's next? And being a mentor, I think, is a really great opportunity for people who might be feeling bored and then be revitalized by seeing the light go on in somebody else's eyes when they discover that they're really good at a certain niche. So there's still lots of
Yeah,
potential there to have some fun and feel meaningful.
absolutely. And I think you're 100% on the right point when you say if you've reached a certain level of success with that niche, if you can automate a few things or you have the right people and you want to start a new project, then great. And that's for all the right reasons, right? Because you're looking for that challenge. And it's when we're trying to do it all at the same time, that's where it becomes so hard to do. And I think you're right. Some people like to challenge themselves, they do it very well. And if they can take on a few niches because they have the right resources, the right people, and the right systems, all the better to them. But yeah, always something we strive for. Not always easy to do when we split the focus, but when we focus on one thing at a time, definitely possible for sure.
If someone listening right now is realizing that they're spread too thin with their general landscape business and their full service, what's a concrete step that they could take this week to start moving towards finding and focusing on their specialty?
I would say instead of deciding right away what your niche should be, look at the last 12 months of jobs. Which ones made you the most money? Which ones did your crew actually perform well on? Which clients sent you referrals and for which jobs? When you pulled into that driveway, did your guys actually want to do that type of work? So what kind of work does your crew enjoy? And when I think you answer those four questions honestly, that niche usually becomes pretty obvious. And that's where you can start putting more effort into saying, okay, does my website represent the type of work that I want to do? I hear people say something like, hey, I wish we could get pool contracts. I wish we could get more of those larger jobs. But then when I look at their website, it doesn't reflect that type of work. So there's no way for people to really just guess that they're doing that. So how are you marketing yourself? What kind of information are you sharing on social media, on your website? How are you branded currently? Is your message talking to the right person? And when you're recruiting employees for the work that you would like to do, are you attracting people the same way? Are you talking about the type of work that you enjoy doing the most? Or do you talk about the ways that you like to train employees? And so it's a combination of the client and having the right people to do the job, but communicating that message really well, whether it's with what we say, how it's written, or what we show for pictures. So maybe taking a look at all of these things is helpful to see in which direction we're headed or where we want to go towards.
And from your perspective, with all the different clients that you've worked with and businesses you've helped coach, are there some untapped niches that there's room for people to move into that you think could be really exciting for the landscape industry?
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen from lighting to water features to tree specimens or transplanting larger trees. And I'm seeing more and more of just like even designers realizing that other contractors will hire you just for, if you can create a plan for them, they'll hire you from all across the country. Not necessarily everyone wants someone full time, but there's niches from design to the gardening industry to landscape, hardscape, irrigation, lighting. I think the most profitable ones I've seen are some like that, the lighting and water features. And so it's interesting. We're living in the time where people are putting a lot of money into their backyards. The more they know what we do and how we do it, I think there's a huge opportunity.
There's something for everyone if they really wanted to find something that stokes their fire and gets them excited to wake up in the day to say, I get to go do this. So thank you so much for sharing all your insights today, Frank, and working through this whole concept of finding a niche and a specialty and what that could mean for an independent contractor to those bigger companies that have different divisions. So I appreciate your insights on all of this.
Thanks, Karina. Really enjoyed my time with you, and a great topic for anyone reflecting about where they want to go forward this year and maybe in the future.
What a great conversation with Frank about the power of specialization. It's clear that whether you run a small crew or a multi-division firm, leaning into a niche is less about limiting yourself and more about gaining clarity, attracting high-quality clients, and building a strong team through focused training and clear roles. A huge thank you to Frank for outlining such a smart strategy for success in this industry. As always, you can find the full show notes and all the resources we mentioned today on our podcast at landscapeontario.com/podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and share and help us spread the word about these conversations about the landscape industry. Thanks for joining me on this journey, and until next time, keep growing.